So I wanted to ask you, of course, about ajāta, and I wanted to read you just a few things, some just short excerpts from what you've written and David Godman on the subject.
Right.
Okay, so of course, this is a Bhagavan saying nothing exists except one reality. There is no birth or death, no projection of the world or drawing of it, no seeker of liberation or liberated one, no bondage, liberation. The one unity alone exists. Okay, and the other one.
That is where does that come from?
That comes from, I believe, something from David Godman, I believe.
Okay.
And then the other one is from David Godman. It's it basically says that Bhagavan made on the nature of reality of the world and its thing covering it. And substratum, since there is nothing that is separate from Brahman, it follows that the names and forms that appear and manifest within it partake of its reality. So in these cases, and I believe there's one other one, but it's basically the same idea. He mentions the one reality and he mentions Brahman. Ajāta, according to my understanding, means absolutely nothing exists. Everything is that we're experiencing is we're the dreamer within a dream having the dream.
Yeah. Well,
so there's a subtle thing about, is there God in the dream? Of course. Is there a God with ajāta, since ajāta means there's nothing?
Okay. Firstly, the second quotation is not expressing ajāta, because it says it talks about the names and forms that appear. In ajāta, there is no appearance. That's what ajāta means. And literally, ajāta means non-born. But there's a verse in Gaudapada's Mandukya Karika, which Bhagavan has translated into Tamil, into a Tamil verse. Basically, what that says is there is no utpatti. Utpatti means coming into existence. There's no destruction. There's no, I can't remember the exact thing, but there's no one seeking liberation and no one who's attained liberation. And a number of things like that. This is the ultimate truth. This is the Paramartika Satya. So according to ajāta, nothing has ever appeared. There is only the one. It's not nothing. Nothing makes no sense at all. I mean, we know there is something, but what the fundamental principle of Advaita was expressed in one of the Upanishads. I'm not sure which one. I'm not very well versed in them. Ekam eva advaityam. That means one only without a second. So if there is one only without a second, if we take that in the most literal sense, that is ajāta. However, our experience is quite contrary to ajāta. What we experience all this multiplicity. So the standard answer of Advaita, all this is a vivata, means a false appearance, an illusory appearance. None of this is actually real. What is actually real is only that one. But when that explanation is given, that is accepting the appearance. In ajāta, the appearance is not even accepted. There is no experience. What is as it is, without undergoing any change, without any appearance or disappearance, and nothing else exists at all, or even seems to exist. That is the standpoint of ajāta, and Bhagavan has said that is the ultimate truth. However, though Bhagavan said, but ajāta is the absolute truth, the ultimate truth, he didn't actually teach ajāta. because, as he explained, in ajāta, there is no teacher, no one to be taught, no teaching, nothing. There's only that one. So ajāta is not a teaching. But Bhagavan did say, he explained to us what the ultimate truth is that. But it's no, a teaching is given because we have a problem and we want to get out of a problem. The problem is we experience all this multiplicity. It may all be a false appearance, but how to get rid of it? So long as it appears, it's causing us so much trouble. We have all sorts of problems. So if we want to be free of it, in Advaita, different levels of explanation are given. That is the most popular explanation in Advaita is falls under what Bhagavan classified as Srishti Drishti Vada. That means Srishti means creation, Drishti means seeing or perception, and Vada means a contention. So that is the contention. But first there's creation, and then we see it. Almost all scientific, philosophical, and religious explanations for the origin of the world, whether it's the Big Bang or Genesis or whatever it is, they all accept the world existed before we saw it. So all forms of Srishti Drishti Vada. Even in Advaita, the majority of Advaitins believe in a form of Srishti Drishti Vada. That is, this explanation is given in many of the old texts on Advaita. That is, there are two things. There's Maya and there's avidya. Maya belongs to Ishvara, to God. Avidya belongs to the jiva. So God, by his power of Maya, has created all this. God is untouched by all these things, but he has created all these things by his power of Maya. In this multiple universe created by Maya, there are many jivas. And the vast majority of the jivas are under the spell or under the sway of avidya. Avidya means ignorance. So because we don't know Brahman, we see all this universe as a multitude of names and forms, and we see ourselves as a body. If we can remove our avidya by means of vidya, by means of knowledge, we will know Brahman, and then we will see everything as Brahman. So the creation will still be there, but instead of seeing it as a world of multiple names and forms, we see it as one Brahman. This is the most popular explanation given in Advaita. The reason this is popular is it reconciles people's ordinary beliefs with the ultimate truth of ajāta. So it's trying to bridge the gap between our usual beliefs about the world. But the world definitely the world existed before I was born, so it can't have been created by my perception of it. That usually we all believe that, and we like to believe that. Why? Because there's so many things in this world we desire. We desire material things, and we have also got friends, relatives, people who are very dear to us. So we don't want to believe that they're all just a false appearance. So this is a bridge between the ordinary view and the ultimate assertion of Advaita, but all is only, but there is only, not even all is one. All is one is even that is a concession to ignorance. Advaita says there is only one, no second. So that is Srishti Drishti Vada. There, another view in Advaita, which is the view that Bhagavan taught, is Drishti Srishti Vada. That it basically says this is just a dream. When you dream, the dream world that you see and the dream body, they don't exist independent of your perception of it. when we go to sleep, we don't travel off to some other world, some dream world where there's a body waiting for us. It's as soon as we begin dreaming, we project a body, which we take as I, and through the 5 senses of that body, we project a world. So this is what it's also sometimes called Yugapat Srishti. That means simultaneous creation. As soon as we see, it's created. I mean, the creation and the seeing are simultaneous. According to this, but even our present state is just a dream. So in a dream, there is only one dreamer. So long as we are dreaming, we experience ourselves as a person in our dream. And when we experience ourselves because we experience ourselves as a person, this person seems to be real and seems to be sentient. Now, because I'm aware of myself as I am Michael, if you ask me, is Michael aware? Oh yes, certainly I'm aware, because I'm taking Michael to be I. But actually in the dream, none of the people in the dream are aware, not even Michael. What is aware is the ego that takes Michael to be I. Exactly the same is the case in our present state. There's one who sees all this. That one is the dreamer. That one identifies itself with a certain person in that dream and sees the whole dream from the perspective of that person. And because it takes this person to be real, to be not only real, but also sentient, all the other people also seem to be sentient. So there's the illusion of many jivas, so long as we're looking outwards. But the truth is there's only one jiva. So this is what Bhagavan has taught us. In Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, Nana, so many places, even Aruṇācala Aṣṭakam, Bhagavan has explained this in so many ways. So this is Bhagavan's fundamental teaching. So your question was how to integrate ajāta with this. Ajāta is the logical, Bhagavan, but this term, Drishti Shrishti Vada, actually dates back about 400 or 500 years ago. It was first, the term was coined. But Bhagavan has presented this in a way that has never been presented before. As I say, in older texts, you will find that the root problem is sometimes it's said avidya, sometimes it's said as maya. Sometimes, according to the Shrishti Drishti Vada that I explained to you earlier, Maya and avidya are distinguished. Maya is for Ishvara, avidya is for Jiva. So not all Advaitins agree with this. Some Advaitins say, no, Maya and avidya, they're one and the same thing. So according to Drishti Shrishti Vada, they're one and the same thing. But still, they take the root problem to be avidya. So then after Shankara, there were disputes among his followers as to, okay, avidya is the root problem. So for whom is avidya? Is avidya for Brahman? I mean, who is the one who there's a technical term in Sanskrit, the asraya, the basis, or it means in a very technical sense, who is it who is ignorant, if we put it in simple layman's language. So, but because of the technical language, they were able to argue very complicated positions. So one group of his followers said, jiva, avidya must only be for jiva. The other group said, no, avidya is the root cause. The jiva is produced by avidya. So avidya must precede jiva, therefore the asraya of avidya is Brahman. But that doesn't mean Brahman is ignorant. And they have all sorts of elaborate arguments and explanations about these things. It's very complicated. If you want to study Advaita philosophy, you can go on studying for a lifetime and you'll still have more to learn about it, because there are so many views. Though Advaita means not two, but there are numerous views on Advaita and numerous explanations. Why there are so many explanations? To suit the mentality of different people. But Bhagavan's is the simplest explanation and the deepest explanation. Bhagavan doesn't disagree but Maya or avidya is the root cause. But he refines it. He says the root cause is ego. The very nature of ego is avidya. That's self-ignorance. That is, whenever we rise as ego, we are aware of ourselves as I am this body. That is avidya, because this body is not what we actually are. The truth is, I am. I am this or I am that is avidya. So avidya is the very nature of ego, and Maya is also the very nature of ego. It's that these are just different ways of describing the one thing, my ego. So rather than taking the problem to be avidya or Maya, which seems to be something other than ourselves, Bhagavan says you are the problem. You as ego are the problem. You are also the solution, because what is ego? Ego is nothing but a wrong awareness of ourself, an awareness of ourself as something other than what we actually are. So if you as ego investigate yourself, this ego will dissolve and disappear. Why? Because the nature of ego, as Bhagavan explains in verse 25 of Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, it's a formless phantom. That means it's got no form of its own, it's got no substance of its own. But it borrows the form of a body, and it borrows the substance of Sat-Chit. It borrows the awareness from Sat-Chit, from real awareness. It is neither Sat-Chit nor is it the body, but it borrows the qualities of both. So he describes it as a formless phantom, and he says it comes into existence grasping form. It stands grasping form. Grasping and feeding on forms, it flourishes. And leaving one form, it grasps another form. So the very nature of ego is to grasp form. Forms means any type of phenomenon. It doesn't only mean physical forms. It any thought, a feeling, an emotion, anything that appears and disappears is a form. Anything that has distinguishing features, anything that you can distinguish one thing from another. We can distinguish a thought from an emotion or whatever. Anything that is distinguishable is a form. So ego itself has no form of its own. So it cannot seem to exist without grasping form. That means as ego, we are always attending to things other than ourselves. Because how does ego, this formless phantom, grasp things? Only by attending to them. So by attending to things other than ourselves, that is, as ego, it's not even by attending. As ego, we come into existence attending to other things. That is it. The very nature of ego is to rise and project and attend to things other than itself. So that is the ego cannot survive without grasping form. Ego itself is formless. So if ego tries to grasp itself, there's nothing for it to grasp, so it dissolves and disappears. So that's why in the same verse 25, Bhagavan says, if sought, it takes flight. That means we seem to be ego only so long as we're looking away from ourselves, looking at other things. When we look back at ourselves, we can't find anything called ego. So what Bhagavan says in verse 17 of Upadeshundya, there he refers to ego as mind. And he says, if one investigates the form of the mind without forgetting or without negligence, there is no such thing as mind at all. This is the direct path for everyone. So there Bhagavan makes clear, if we investigate this ego, we will find there's no such thing. So what is called manonasa, the destruction of the mind, or eradication of ego, that is like saying that if you look at the snake very carefully, if you look at the snake very carefully, the snake will disappear. So you've killed the snake. Of course, you haven't killed the snake because there was never a snake there at all. It was always only a rope. The snake was just a misperception. When we look at it carefully enough, we see, oh, it's just a rope. As soon as we see it's a rope, we'll see there never was a snake there. Likewise, when we look at ego carefully enough, we'll see that what it actually is just pure awareness. And that there has never been any such thing as ego. since, according to Bhagavan, as he says, for example, in verse 26 of Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, he says this in many places, but he says it most clearly and emphatically in verse 26 of Uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu. If ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. Everything means all phenomena. If ego doesn't exist, everything doesn't exist. Ego itself is everything. Therefore, investigating what this ego is giving up everything. So if we investigate ourselves and see that there never was any such thing as ego, that means there also never was any such thing as phenomena. So Drishti Shrishti Vada, as it is explained by Bhagavan, the logical conclusion of it is ajāta. Because if we investigate this ego keenly enough, we will see there's no ego at all. Everything else exists only in the view of ego. It's only when we rise as ego that we see this world. So when ego is found to be non-existent, this whole world is found to be non-existent. Or not only this world, all worlds, all imagined worlds. What exists is only pure awareness. That is the fundamental, but that is what we're aware. We're aware of that even now. That is our fundamental awareness of our own existence, Satchit, which is what is shining in us as I am. That is the pure awareness, which is the ultimate truth. That's why Bhagavan often used to say, there's nothing new to know. You already know all that is to be known. All you need to do is to get rid of your false knowledge, and the real knowledge will remain. So though Bhagavan doesn't teach ajāta, in the sense that Bhagavan doesn't take ajāta is not an explanation for the appearance of multiplicity. Ajāta is a flat denial of the appearance of multiplicity. There's no appearance, there never was any appearance, because there's no one in whose view it could appear. That is the standpoint of ajāta. But that doesn't help us now. Now we have a problem. So how to get rid of this problem? Bhagavan said, you are the root of a problem. You as ego are the root of a problem. In order to get rid of the problem, all you need to do is to see yourself as you actually are. Then you'll see you never were an ego. And since you never were an ego, you never saw any world. There never was anything other than yourself. So the logical conclusion of Bhagavan's teachings is ajāta.
Okay. So obviously this spurs a couple quick questions.
No, sure.
So the world is, as we see it, is an illusion, is a dream, and this is brought up.
Yeah.
So the first question is, then even though ajāta means nothing at all,
it doesn't mean nothing. It means only one unchangeable reality.
Okay, and that's what you would call, or some would call, God or the absolute, or
exactly. I mean, what you call it doesn't matter. But simplest thing, it is you. It is I am.
So whatever it is, or you call it, it exists.
It exists. Yes.
It exists. Okay, because really ajāta kind of cancels itself out. So what was interesting is when I first...
What ajāta says is that nothing has come into being. It doesn't say nothing exists. Nothing has come into being. That means there is one thing that exists. If there wasn't anything that existed, all this illusion couldn't be there. There must be some basis for the illusion. That basis is our own fundamental awareness, I am. We can doubt everything else. The one thing we cannot doubt is our own existence and our own awareness. Because if we didn't exist and we weren't aware, we couldn't be aware of all this. So all this may be an illusion, but we are real. Not we as the person we seem to be, as that basic awareness, as that Satchit, that is that existence awareness, that is undeniable. And that is the one which exists without a second.
Okay. So why all this ego and illusion? Why does this even exist? To know that it doesn't?
Why was the son of the barren woman born?
What would you say?
Is there such a thing as the son of a barren woman? A barren woman means a woman who's had no children.
Right. Yeah. No, I was because I thought you were referring to like Jesus there for a second.
No. Mary she was an immaculate conception, but she wasn't. I mean, Jesus was an immaculate. She gave birth without the father, apparently. So we are led to believe. But she gave birth. She bore Jesus in her womb, so she's not barren.
Okay.
The son of a barren woman is a logical impossibility.
Right.
Because if she's barren, she doesn't have a son. If she's got a son, she's not barren. So it's an analogy that is often used in Advaita to refer to something that has no existence whatsoever. According to Bhagavan, the ego is the son of a barren woman. Because if you investigate ego, you'll see there's no such thing. So Bhagavan used to say, asking why or how is the wrong question. First, find this ego. If this ego is causing you trouble, first find it and bring it to me. Then we can find out how it came into existence. But if you look for it, you won't find it.
Okay. I used to ask a friend of mine who's a teacher, Robert Wolf. You might know him. In fact, he's written a book about ajāta. And I went for a year and I kept asking, why is there a dream? And why is there a dream? And so forth and so on. And then one day, while walking my dog, it dawned on me that there wasn't even a dream.
Yeah, that's ajāta.
Yeah, and Robert said, yes, that's called waking up from the dream. Yeah. What's interesting to me is that...
but even saying waking up from a dream, Bhagavan has also said that in the first verse of Atma-vichara. He says, but knowing oneself and being oneself is just like waking up from a dream. But even that is a concession. Because when we wake up, we'll see there never was a dream and never was a dreamer. There was only what is.
When I first discovered Bhagavan, there was absolutely no question in my mind that he was a teacher, that he was my teacher.
Yeah.
It was clarity beyond anything.
Yes.
When I learned a little bit about Advaita Vedanta, it was okay, but I kept saying, well, now what? So what? I mean, okay, so everything is one, but I don't understand. There wasn't a conclusion to it. There wasn't a finality to it. And as a young kid, as far back as I can remember, I always felt that I was sort of in a way put on this, dumped into this school or this camp.
Yeah.
It wasn't real and I couldn't figure it out, but it felt like a vacation I didn't ask for.
Yeah.
When ajāta was explained to me, that was it. It was like, that's it. That's that. And yet more people are coming into the knowledge of ajāta. And the only confusion I had, which is why I contacted you, is because, it's a very subtle thing. Does God exist if nothing exists? And I think what you're clearly saying is, if only that it exists, nothing else exists. Everything is that doing what it does.
Yeah.
And that's the dream. Is that correct?
Sorry, can you say that again?
I said, if everything is that, let's say, then everything is that doing what it does. There's nothing beyond that, period. And you
nothing beyond that. But what is dreaming is only our self as ego. That never dreams. Because the nature of Brahman, or whatever we choose to call it, Brahman or God or whatever, it is pure awareness. Pure awareness means awareness that is aware of nothing other than itself. Why is it aware of nothing other than itself? Because there is nothing other than itself. So it's only when we rise as ego that all this appearance comes into existence. As I say, one thing all Advaitins will agree on is Vivartavada, but all this is an appearance, an illusory appearance. But when we are told it's an illusory appearance, the first question should be, then to whom does it appear? It doesn't appear in sleep. It only appears in waking and dream. Why is that? Because it's only when we rise as ego that it appears to us. When we don't rise as ego, nothing appears to us. So the whole appearance is only in the view of ego. And if we investigate this ego, we'll find there's no such thing, and there never was any such thing. That means there never was any appearance. That is ajāta.
So nothing ever arises.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing, and arising here includes appearance. Nothing ever appears. Yeah. Because some people say, in some book it's written, but Bhagavan taught that this isn't correct. It's a wrong understanding. But Bhagavan taught that someone explained the ajāta saying, but Bhagavan taught that everything is an uncaused appearance in the self. So long as you accept it's an appearance, that is not ajāta. And Bhagavan never said it's uncaused. The cause, Bhagavan made very clear, is ego. Ego is the first cause. So in a sense, you can say ego is uncaused. But even to say it's uncaused assumes that it exists. If you investigate this ego, you'll find it never existed. So there's no question of it being caused. So if you want to find the first cause for all things, Bhagavan says it's only ego. There's no cause for ego. But so long as we accept the seeming existence of ego, we're in the realm of, at least the realm of drishti shrishti vada. We're not in the realm of ajāta. In ajāta, ego has never come into existence, and therefore there has never been any appearance.
Okay, so once you understand all this, there really are no questions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's one question. One important question. Okay. Who am I?
Well, yeah, who am I?
Because that is the only solution to all this problem. So that is the ultimate question.
But that's unknowable.
So long as we ask the question, we cannot know it. We need to, Bhagavan never actually said, ask the question, who am I? He said, investigate, who am I? If we investigate, then we will know ourselves as we are. Even now we know ourselves, but instead of knowing ourselves just as I am, we know ourselves as I am Kevin or I am Michael. Remove Kevin and Michael from the, and everything that goes along with them, what remains is I am. That is what is always knowing itself.
Okay, so then you should take really nothing very seriously in this illusion. Just play it out.
No, but it's, so long as we are suffering from an illusion, it's not very pleasant. So we should take it seriously enough to want to know what lies behind this appearance. And we can know that not by looking outwards and worrying about all the problems in the world, only by looking within, who is seeing all these problems.
Okay. And I guess as the last question is, when one does that, let's say you've done this, you've thought about this a great deal.
Yeah.
How does your life change?
Well, Bhagavan's teachings are extremely practical. The whole purpose of Bhagavan's teachings is that we put things into practice. So ultimately, I mean, I wouldn't say Bhagavan's teachings are useless if we don't put them into practice, but we are missing the point if we don't put them into practice. However, even if we just understand Bhagavan's teachings, to the extent that we understand them clearly and correctly, to that extent we will be detached from other things. So actually it's difficult to understand Bhagavan's teachings without putting them into practice, because unless we put them into practice, we don't have the clarity to understand them. And if we understand them, we cannot avoid putting them into practice, because automatically we become more detached. And the more detached we are, the deeper we are able to go in the practice. So life goes on as usual. We still face the same problems. Everything is the same, but our attitude towards it changes.
Yeah, I find that true.
We are not yet desireless. We're not free of all desires, but though we may still want this or that and like this and that, they're less strong. We are less concerned about these things. We're even our own desires, our own likes and dislikes, we're able to view with a certain detachment, because we know, even if I get everything that I like, for how long is it going to last? Every day I have to leave it when I go to sleep. When this body goes, I'll have to leave a whole lot. So but it just helps us to see life in a better perspective. But the most important thing, as I say, is putting it into practice. Because if we don't put it into practice, if we don't try to turn our attention within, this will continue. It may be, but so by understanding Bhagavan teachings, our life is a little less unpleasant, because we are less affected by the unpleasantness of life. But we cannot be satisfied with just now life is a bit better than it would have been if I hadn't known Bhagavan, but that is not enough. Bhagavan won't allow us to keep quiet. He will go on pushing us. He'll from outside and inside, pulling inside from inside and pushing from outside. So we really cannot rest until we return to and remain as what we actually are. Bhagavan, in the last verse of Aruṇācala Aṣṭakam, Bhagavan gives a two nice analogies. He says the rain that has evaporated from the oceans will not rest until it returns to the ocean. It may rise up, it'll rise up as clouds, it'll rain on the mountains, it'll go down, it'll get caught in the lake, and there it may be evaporated again. And sooner or later, it has to return to the ocean. Only when it returns to the ocean will it find real permanent rest. Likewise, a bird flying in the sky cannot find rest anywhere in the sky. In order to get a rest, it has to come back to the earth sooner or later. Likewise, whatever paths we may follow, worldly paths, spiritual paths, religious paths, whatever it may be, whether we go hither or thither, sooner or later, we have to come back to earth. Earth here means our real nature, that fundamental awareness I am, because that is the only permanent resting place. Even for our temporary rest, every night we have a rest in sleep. Where are we returning in sleep? Only back to I am.
Yeah. Okay.
And another thing, that is, when we rise as ego, our real nature is infinite happiness. But when we rise as ego, we limit ourselves to a form of a body. So we take ourselves with this body, mind, and all this bundle. Having limited ourselves, we cannot experience the infinite happiness that is our own real nature. So the very nature of ego is to be dissatisfied. Whatever you get, you may want to be very, very rich. Even if you're, what's his name, this Amazon man, richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos. Do you think Jeff Bezos is happy?
Doesn't look happy.
Whatever you get, you may want to be very learned. You can go on studying books, but however much you learn, you still want to learn more. So wherever we seek happiness, we are never satisfied. We always want more and more and more, because dissatisfaction is the very nature of ego. So when we have got thoroughly disillusioned and disenchanted with all our efforts to seek happiness outside ourselves, we then begin to, we are then open to the idea, oh, maybe the happiness I'm seeking lies within me. So when Bhagavan says, you yourself are happiness, know yourself, and then only you can experience the infinite happiness that you actually are, we think, oh yes, it's worth a try. So that, because nothing can satisfy us other than returning and being as we actually are. So there will always be something pushing us. Nowadays, there are some gurus who say, give up the search. You should stop searching. So long as you're searching, you're deluding yourself. We cannot give up searching. If you stop searching within, you'll start searching outside, because the very nature of ego is to be always searching for happiness, because we can never be satisfied. So So long as we're looking for happiness outside, we're going to be disappointed. The infinite happiness that we are seeking is our own real nature. So we can experience it only by knowing ourselves as we actually are. And to know ourselves as we actually are, we need to stop looking outwards, look inwards instead. That is the only way. So long as we're looking outwards, we are ego, in effect. That is, we have risen as ego, taken ourselves to be body, and therefore we're looking outwards. If we want to bring an end to this ego, we have to look within. That means look back at ourselves.
Okay. So in this dream world, as long as we have that desire to know, it'll hopefully unfold.
Yeah, yeah. But why do you have a desire to know? Whatever you have a desire for, the ultimate, if you want to know something, it's because you think you'll be happy if you know that. So that's why Bhagavan emphasized happiness so much. That is, happiness is what we're all seeking. Whether you're seeking happiness in knowledge or in worldly pleasures or in watching football or whatever. I mean, people look for happiness in so many things. Ultimately, one thing all sentient beings are seeking is happiness, from the smallest ant to the highest God in heaven. All are seeking happiness, but the happiness we are seeking is within us. So it's only by turning back within and merging back into our source that we can experience that happiness.
Okay. One little quick last question on the side note. Has anyone ever recorded Bhagavan speaking?
There was an attempt. There may be more than one attempt, but the most famous attempt is when someone in those days, they didn't have cassette recorders or anything like that. It was the old fashioned where you had to set up a spool and everything. So someone had brought recording equipment, and everyone was very excited. Our Bhagavan's voice is going to be recorded. So they set it up, everything in the hall in front of Bhagavan, and Bhagavan was just sitting there quietly. Then someone said to him, Bhagavan, this person has come all the way from Chennai to record your voice. Will you please say something? Bhagavan just kept quiet. Then after some time, the man gave up and he started to disassemble his equipment. And then someone said, Bhagavan, you've disappointed him. He came all this way hoping to record your voice. And Bhagavan said, how to record my voice? My voice is silent. But by that time, he'd switched it all off. So even that wasn't recorded.
Well, on that note, then we should get quiet.
Yeah. For some reason, Bhagavan allowed hundreds or possibly even thousands of photographs to be taken of him, but never was his voice recorded.
Yeah.
Why that was, who knows? That was just the way it was.
Well, you wonder by looking at him if he had a small voice or a deeper voice, just the mind.
He had a very gentle and very sweet voice, is what I've heard. But that doesn't mean it was a manly voice, but very sweet and gentle.
Good.